Let's talk about NBA trade rumors and some draft talk as well with Chris Mannix and John Fanta. Let's start out with Giannis Antetokounmpo. If it relates to his future at all, I've heard in recent days that the Bucks seem comfortable letting Brook Lopez walk in free agency. And I don't know if this would tie to Giannis's decision, but have you heard anything related to Brook, Giannis, what the situation is there?
Not specifically to Brook Lopez. Though I think the Bucks are kind of a prisoner of whatever Giannis tells them whenever they meet. Every time I check in with someone in the organization, I keep getting told, yes, they're going to convene. They're going to have a kind of a come to Jesus moment with Giannis, with the front office. The front office is going to have their pitch to Giannis to sell him on the idea of staying long term. Most people I've talked to believe the sales pitch will be, hey, a gap year next year, where you just claw your way maybe to 500. And then when you get to the summer of 2026, you've got some flexibility in terms of your payroll. You've got some flexibility in terms of draft picks you can deal. That's when they can make their move again. And I think there are people in Milwaukee that believe that they've earned enough equity with Giannis, given what they've done over the last 6 years, to at least get him to listen and to consider it. So, look, if Giannis says to them, like, okay, I'll buy in, but we got to bring back Brook Lopez on XYZ, or, I think there's a lot of fluidity to what they could do next. But really, all I keep hearing, Kevin, is hey, we got to talk to him. We got to figure out what he wants, what he's willing to do, and then we've got to base our decisions from there.
And I wonder how much of this would relate to, system, like basketball role for him, because we saw at the end of the season, he was putting up, triple doubles, handling the ball, playmaking a hell of a lot more. Does he want that on his plate when, Drew Hanlon, who helped train Giannis last year, I had him on my podcast back in San Francisco at All-Star Weekend, and he's like, one of the reasons why Giannis wanted to improve his jumper is so there's less wear and tear in his body throughout the season. So I would think that maybe he doesn't want all that responsibility on his plate for the full duration of the season. But then you think about a year ago, there were rumors about, maybe the Bucks want to move on from Brook Lopez. This was last summer with Brook, and how maybe they want to play a more aggressive, versatile style of defense. So what Giannis wants, like if the Bucks are able to give him that, like they need to talk. Like it's as simple as that. Like there's no clarity at this time, it seems like, from the Bucks side of things or from the Giannis side of things. Maybe he still isn't sure what he wants to do at this point, and he wants to see what every other team is doing. Like everybody says he's the domino waiting to fall, but maybe he's waiting for everything else to fall, and then he makes his choice at that point.
And if and when he makes a choice, how specific is he with what he wants to do next? And what I mean by that is, does he say, don't trade me to the Western Conference? Like I go West, I could go to a good team that still gets beat in the first round next year. I mean, how many teams can you count in the Western Conference field that are going to go into next season with at least top 6 aspirations? And
a lot.
For many, like I can win the West sort of thoughts. So does Giannis say to them, all right, let's work out a deal, but send me to an Eastern Conference team. And I'm just throwing this out there. Let's talk about Toronto. Let's talk about New York. Let's talk about Brooklyn. These teams that could be interested in doing a deal for me. We just don't know how specific he's going to get. Does he say to them, like, look, make the best deal for you guys and just make sure you send me to a championship caliber team? Or does he say, I need to go to the right conference? I think it is interesting about the role. I mean, the shooting stuff, it's like he continues to be one of the greatest players in the game while paying less and less attention to his three-point shot, right? Like the numbers keep going down. He's just, usually when you see a guy get to this level, and like Jokic is a great example, the three-point numbers tick up a little bit. Giannis just decided at some point to say, screw it, I'm just not going to be a three-point shooter. That's just not going to be in my bag. And like to your point, he has diversified his game a little bit. Drew Hanlon's work with him. Drew Hanlon works with everybody, apparently. His work with him and everybody else. So that there's been some diversification, but he is what he is. He is a force of nature in the open floor, just impossible to stop when he goes downhill. I do think that he's always wanted help, right? Like when you go back to 2020, before they made the Drew Holiday trade, like they gave up assets because Giannis said, I need help. I need more. They do the deal that swaps out Holiday for Damian Lillard. That was in part motivated by Giannis feeling like he needed another offensive player alongside him. So I think he's always going to want more assets, more weapons around him. It just remains to be seen kind of in this stage of his career and where the Bucks are, just exactly what those assets look like.
Yeah, I mean, there's part of me that wonders, like, what do the Bucks want? What does the Bucks front office want? Are they hoping for a monster offer from San Antonio or Houston? Are they hoping for something like that? And there's no guarantee that actually ends up coming on their side of things either.
You're right. There isn't a guarantee that those offers come in. Like Houston, I tend to think a Houston offer might be a little overrated. I mean, yeah, they've got the Phoenix draft capital, which is going to be huge the next couple of years. I don't know what Phoenix does. Like, you got Jordan Knott coaching Bradley Beal and Devin Booker. Like, what is that even going to look like next year? So those assets are real. But I think you'd agree, over the last couple of years, like, Jaylen Green has gone from, like, a player you might want to, like, basically a contract that you need to get a deal done for Giannis. He just hasn't developed to the point where you'd be coveting a Jaylen Green. And San Antonio, I think, is interesting. But one thing people keep telling me about San Antonio is, like, if you ask the Spurs about Stephen Castle and a Giannis deal, they're going to say no. In part because they really like Castle, but also, like, when you trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo, yeah, right there and then you create a championship contender. But Victor Wembanyama's in his early 20s. Like, at some point, Giannis, De'Aaron Fox, the veterans that are there are going to be gone. And you want to at least have a running buddy for Victor Wembanyama who's around his age that you can that can be kind of there and for the long term. Because you don't want Victor 5 years from now going, wait a minute, Giannis is gone, Fox is gone. What's left here? That's the looming long-term nightmare scenario for San Antonio. It's a long way of saying, like, I just don't know what the Giannis market would look like if the Bucks, get up on Tuesday morning and decide they're going to put him on the block.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And with San Antonio, like, to me, it's not a clear-cut yes, like, go for it, go all in, trade for Giannis. Like, it's a bit more of a debate internally there than I think people would assume. And that's, relates to the Kevin Durant stuff. So, Bill Simmons on his podcast on Sunday night mentioned that he wouldn't be surprised if KD to the Spurs is done already and they just haven't announced it. Like, they've agreed on the specifics and they'll announce it a week before the draft. That's what he said to Russillo on a Sunday night pod. I've not heard anything specific like that, but there's undoubtedly a lot of noise about KD to San Antonio. That's for damn sure. Now, I think KD in San Antonio makes a lot of sense, though, because they need shooting bad. Like, their shooting is horrible there around Victor Wembanyama. So KD makes sense there. KD also would make Victor happy. When I interviewed Victor last year, I asked him, who are your basketball role models? KD and Giannis were the two names he mentioned. He went into great detail about Kevin Durant, how he studies his game and tries to learn from him and takes things about the way he moves off ball and very specific things like that. So it would also be appeasing to Victor as well to get Kevin Durant there, in addition to accelerating things. Because KD's still a good player, and he'd come cheap in comparison to what Giannis was.
There's the question. Like, what does cheap look like to you? Like, you're not giving up the second overall pick for Kevin Durant.
No, you're not. Well, let's look at a fake trade idea. Trade idea for Kevin Durant could be something along the lines of Jeremy Sohan, Harrison Barnes, Keldon Johnson in the 14th pick. Something along those lines. You would do that if you're the Spurs and if you're the Suns. Both sides.
Yeah. The players, whatever. I mean, Phoenix, again, is to what I said earlier. They're not in a position where they can just bottom out because they don't control enough of their draft capital. So you get a bunch of guys that can play. They're hell-bent on keeping Devin Booker around for whatever reason. I still don't get that. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Devin Booker cannot win a championship in Phoenix. Doesn't mean Devin Booker can't win a championship, but he can't win a championship in Phoenix. He's not, his prime years, which are right now, they're not going to be championship level during.
Doesn't this go both ways? Like, why does he want to stay there?
I agree.
And why do the Suns want to keep him, right?
I agree. I think it's madness to be thinking that you can still win with Devin Booker. The upside of 97 people interviewing for the Suns job over the last few weeks is that you talk to a lot of people that are involved in that process. And look, they've all said that they were told, hey, Devin Booker is going to be here. Kevin Durant's not going to be here, but Devin Booker is going to be here. And effectively, Bradley Beal is going to be here because we have no choice. Like, we have nowhere to.
They would love to get rid of him.
There's no choice on that one. But yeah, like, to bring it back. I mean, I would. It's fine. Like, it's not a home run. It's obviously not close to what you gave up for Kevin Durant, but it's fine in terms of a deal that gets you back a lottery pick, some useful players, and you can
doing this offseason. Bill Simmons on his podcast on Sunday mentioned how he's on high alert about Lauri Markkanen. He said Markkanen isn't not available. I have not heard anything specific to Markkanen's future in Utah. Have you?
I think he's available. Here's, I'm just asking sort of the hypothetical. Like, do the Jazz regret not getting some kind of deal done for Markkanen last year with Golden State?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Like, they did what Danny Ainge always does. You hold out for the mother load, and a lot of times it works. A lot of times you get a counterpart that is desperate. Golden State was not desperate, and they were smart not to go all in to get Lauri Markkanen on that team. But I think looking back on it, Utah, if they could do it all over again, maybe they don't push the envelope so far and they take what was on the table for Lauri Markkanen. I think that's why it kind of makes me think that if something similar comes along this year, where an offer's on the table, you can get that type of package back in return, I think Utah is going to jump at it. Like, they're not winning during this Lauri Markkanen prime window. It's not a reflection on Markkanen. He's an excellent player, but he's not really part of what they're trying to do long term. And look, I get what Austin Ainge was saying at the press conference. We're not going to tank. Believe it when I see it, right? Just, let's, okay.
Especially next year. Next year's draft
exactly.
has 3-4 number one pick quality players. Like,
also,
next year
also, Kevin,
is the year to tank.
Yeah, and like, what? Even if they're not, like, how many games are they winning in the Western Conference? Like, I mean, it's
not many.
They're going to be in such a tough position, I think, come January, February. That's why I think two things. I think, one, I think Markkanen's going to be available. I don't know. It's a separate conversation about like how big a difference maker he is and what, because you have to give up something to get him because he makes so much money, and he's a good but not great player. So there's certainly a debate about whether or not he can transform kind of one of these, like, let's say Orlando, for example. Like, does he turn Orlando into a top tier team in the Eastern Conference, a team that needs that kind of offensive boost? I don't know the answer to that, but I do think that Utah has no use for Lauri Markkanen next year. They're not going to be a good team. And however you want to frame it, whether you are intentionally tanking or, hey, we're going to sit a bunch of guys because they're kind of injured in the second half of the season, one way or the other, it's not going to be a good year next year for the Utah Jazz.
Orlando's interesting. You mentioned them because I've
very interesting.
I've heard that they are open to trading Cole Anthony and Jonathan Isaac with their first for an upgrade there. And I'm just trying to do the math in my head. Getting Lauri Markkanen for those two salaries, it's close financially, but do you have too many like 6'10" shot creators?
Yeah, but Lauri's a shot maker too. Like, Lauri's a shot maker too. Like, and that's, I mean, you've watched them a ton this year. You watch them in the Boston series. Like, their defense is championship level. Like, they're good.
Oh, it is.
Yep. Banchero is good. Franz Wagner is good. They need one more shot maker. Now, maybe Lauri Markkanen is not ideal. I'd probably want somebody in the backcourt that's more of a shot maker than, a 6'10" forward who kind of clutters things up a little bit with Paolo and with Franz. But if that's on the table, if that's available, I would be surprised if Orlando didn't make a move. Like, they finished the year, what is the 7 seed in the East? Like, they're one shot maker away, one offensive player away, I think, from being a top 4 team again. Like, they're right there, I think, on the cusp. Organic improvements, they're going to get better, and one more offensive player, they're legit. They're a team I'm really watching because they've got some young pieces out there. They've got some draft capital. I mean, if they're willing to deal Jonathan Isaac, I mean, they've kept him for, I think, 37 years, like, through every injury that he's had during his career. But that's a team that I think is going to be aggressively looking for an offensive player.
And for what it's worth, the Isaac $25 million salary and the Cole Anthony $12.9 million salary work perfectly for Lauri Markkanen's $42.1 million. So who knows? We might have just made a deal here on the podcast because connected some rumors here, because Markkanen would make some sense there. Speaking about teams in the Eastern Conference trying to make improvements, New York Knicks fired Tom Thibodeau, and now everybody's talking about the Jason Kidd possibility. Windhorst mentioned on ESPN this week how the Knicks and Jason Kidd have mutual interests. What are your general thoughts on that? With Kidd looking to bounce from Dallas possibly, and the Knicks seemingly targeting Jason Kidd.
So I talked about this a little bit on my show this week. it's fascinating how this is all playing out. For starters, you and I are on different sides, I think, of the Tom Thibodeau firing, but I think we can now agree that they fired him without a plan in place to replace him.
Like, we can agree about that for sure.
Like, I know some people were like, oh no, they fired him and there's somebody else waiting in the wings. There's not, right? Like, if they're kicking the tires on Jason Kidd, that just means that somebody, whether it's James Dolan, Leon Rose, Worldwide West, any of the other guys that have gotten that front office, they didn't want Tom Thibodeau around anymore. The Kidd stuff is fascinating because as we sit here taping this on Monday afternoon, I have no idea why Dallas isn't nipping this in the bud right away. Like, Dallas could quickly just come out and be like, Jason Kidd's our coach. We're not interested in granting anybody permission for anything. You don't have to, you can release a statement. That would be one way to do it. Or you can just leak it to Tim McMahon or any other Dallas area guys down there. And that's the end of it. But they haven't. And we're on like day 3 or 4 of Jason Kidd watch down in Dallas since this became a national news story. And the Mavericks are just letting this thing kind of sit out there, which tells me that where there's smoke, there's fire in some of this. But I don't get it, Kevin, because Jason Kidd is uniquely qualified to coach that team. He has the relationship with Anthony Davis that most recently dates back to the Lakers days. Part of the revival of Kyrie Irving has been playing for Jason Kidd, who he grew up watching in Jersey and, has a kindred spirit for like the first time as his head coach. He is uniquely qualified to coach that team. If they let Jason Kidd go, they're in the same position the Knicks are right now, where they're looking around, looking for a veteran coach that can coach a championship caliber team. And as the Knicks have learned, there aren't a lot of those guys out there. I mean, before Chauncey Billups signed his extension, I thought, well, maybe that might be a good guy you could try to lure down to Dallas. That could have made some sense. Everybody wants a piece of Ime Udoka. The only team that's operating like a normal team is the Houston Rockets, which are like, we're not giving you Ime Udoka. Like, look at what Ime has done in 2 short years here. I mean, he should be bleeding Houston colors for the rest of his professional basketball life. Beyond that, like, what are you going to do? You're not going to like elevate one of your assistants to coach that team. Are you going to go back down the rabbit hole of the Budenholzers and the Vogels and these coaches that have been around for a while? Like, why would you do it? So to take it one step further, the only rational explanation I can see for the Mavericks entertaining this and potentially doing it is if they do it, they would then blow the whole thing up. That would be the signal that they would say, all right, we're going to trade AD and get whatever we can get back in return for him. Kyrie, probably no market out there for him given the injury, but we won't give him an extension. If he opts in, fine, have a nice vacation. You'll pay you $40 million to rehabilitate over the course of a year. And we're now Cooper Flagg's Dallas Mavericks. That's who we are. In a way, it's kind of a get-out-of-jail-free card for the Mavs because I think you and I agree Cooper is going to be awesome. I think Cooper is legit. Like, I spent a lot of time with him over the last couple of weeks working on a story and just talking to people about him, being around him. I think the sky really is the limit for that kid. So that to me is the only thing that makes sense. Only reason why the Mavericks would be entertaining the idea of letting Jason Kidd go, because if you do, this isn't plug and play at that coaching spot. Like, as much as I love some of the guys on the Mavericks bench, I don't think they'd even...
Sean Sweeney interviewed for the Phoenix Suns job. A guy like that seems like a future head coach. But
Jared Dudley. Jared Dudley's brilliant...
Dudley. Yep. Interviewing in Memphis, right? I think as well.
There's lots of great future head coaches there, but for this team specifically,
yes,
with AD and with Kyrie, like, I think they'd probably tell you they're probably not the best fits to take over a team like that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you have a different perspective here, but I don't get it. I don't get why Dallas isn't just stomping out this rumor as fast as they can, unless they're considering it and they have an alternate plan in place that we don't know about yet.
I mean, look, I think you and I are thinking along the same lines here. It doesn't make sense to just not end this conversation now, like Houston has with Ime Udoka. That's for sure. If you're not doing it, either you believe, Sean Sweeney or Jared Dudley, whoever will be a better head coach than Jason Kidd, that you may feel that. It may be as simple as that. But the other side of it is this. Do you really want to take the 2 timelines approach where you have Nico Harrison talking about we're going to be in championship contention, AD, Kyrie Irving, we're going to be contending for a title next year, and then you add a rookie Cooper Flagg, as amazing as I think he will be, it is so rare that rookie players are high-level contributors deep in the postseason. So does Cooper help you win the finals in 2026 and in 2027? Not as much as a veteran player would, not as much as having a veteran coach would. So if you're bringing in a young coach, if you're bringing in a rookie player, to your point, it would only make sense that you're open to trading those veteran guys, 80 included, Kyrie once he's back, and then making it Cooper Flagg's team. And to me, that's why I argued months ago for just fire Nico and have a clean slate. Like if you're that Mavericks ownership, you realize, okay, we've lost the fan base. The only way for us to get over this is to eliminate the reminders of our past. And one of the ways you do that is just make it a Cooper Flagg team. Just make it a Cooper Flagg team. No more AD, no more Kyrie, a nice, young, fun roster that fans can latch on to and feel hope for the future about, rather than a team that, let's be honest, AD and Kyrie, as great as they are and as good as some of the role players are on that team, I still wouldn't put them in the upper echelon of the West. And the health of those guys is an obvious concern as well, the durability of those guys at their age. So I think for Dallas, you might be onto something there, Chris, that maybe in what it looks like a buyer's market with teams looking to push, looking to go all in, maybe you become one of the sellers and you get a haul for one of those guys or multiple of those guys and just have a Cooper Flagg-led roster.
Yeah, I don't think they can win next year for the reasons you laid out there. Cooper's too young to be championship level impact. Kyrie, whenever he comes back, it's going to take him some time to become Kyrie again. Where they can make their money is in that 26-27 season, assuming AD is still AD. Kyrie is still Kyrie. I really believe Cooper Flagg in year 2 is going to take off. I think he's an all-star consideration in year 2, and I think we're talking all-NBA in year 3. I think we're having that conversation about Cooper Flagg. So I think year 2, with maintain the continuity, that's where you have your chances to win. It's just remarkable to me that they've allowed the New York Knicks to screw them up like this, to let this become a thing that they are not stepping on right away. Something else that was brought to me by somebody around the league was made a note of who the owners are in this. Like, James Dolan is a New York guy, right? Like, he's MSG, the Knicks, the Rangers. He's also a Vegas guy. Owns the Sphere, owns restaurants out in Vegas. The Dumont family, the Adelson family, they're Vegas people too. Now, I don't know if there's I don't know what the interconnections are. Somebody was saying to me that some of Dolan's restaurants have been in some of these Sands properties in the past or whatever it is. But there is a certain chumminess to Vegas people. There's a certain, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So this could wind up being like an ownership call where Dumont and Dolan come to some kind of agreement where draft consideration goes Dallas's way and some money and whatever to send Jason Kidd out there. But it would be nuts. Like, my opinion, keep Jason Kidd exactly where he is. Give him a 1-year extension or whatever to sweeten the pot. That's the thing with Jason. Like, I don't think Jason's looking for a way out of Dallas. This isn't Brooklyn 2.0, where he was looking to get out of Brooklyn to go to Milwaukee.
Yes, he was traded once before. He's been involved in a trade before.
I think he sees what we see with this team, and he can see a pathway to winning a championship, which is ultimately what he wants. He wants to be a championship head coach. The second part of it is he wants to get paid. And Jason Kidd undoubtedly is looking at the New York Knicks, where he interviewed 5 years ago, knowing that if they're willing to walk away from $30 million over 3 years from Tom Thibodeau, they'll pay me 40, 50 over 5 years, maybe more, to coach that team on a new contract. So I don't think Kidd's going to try to bully his way out of there, but I think Kidd probably sees this as an opportunity either to wind up in a new situation in the Eastern Conference or to get paid more money with the Dallas Mavericks. It's really all upside here for Jason Kidd.
Is Kidd the right target for the Knicks?
I don't even know. I mean, that's the other part of it. Like, I think Jason's a good coach. Maybe he takes his entire staff to New York with him. Is he better than Tom Thibodeau? I don't know. I mean, he did a good job in leading the Mavericks to the finals a couple of years ago. I think he's a lot better coach in Dallas than he was in Milwaukee, and a lot better coach in Milwaukee than he was in Brooklyn. So there's growth there in my mind from Jason Kidd. But
you weren't a fan of the water trick on the sideline?
No. It was not that wasn't big. But I think he's a good coach. And I think he has the potential to keep getting better as a coach. But the Knicks, the bar has been set. Like, you've got to get to game 6 of the conference finals or else it's a failure. You've got to beat a juggernaut like the Celtics or else it's a failure. It ramps up the pressure, no doubt about it, from Jason Kidd. But I'm sure he's looking at the West going, all right, I've got a better team in 2 years in Dallas in the Western Conference, but I've also got to compete in the Western Conference. In New York, I've got an easier path, but I've got a team that probably has a lower ceiling than the one I'm coaching right now. So I don't know. I think Jason's honestly probably sitting back and just kind of enjoying a lot of this. Like, he didn't instigate this. Like, this is coming out of New York where they're saying, we want to, talk to, or however they're framing it. I love the due diligence part. That's another side of this. Like, doing due diligence on Jason Kidd, like come on. You either want him or you don't. It's just kind of as simple as that. So I think Jason's kind of probably enjoying some of this, knowing that he's going to come out better for it on the other side, one way or the other.
Mannix, we got a fun offseason ahead. Appreciate you joining me today, man.
You got it, Kevin.
All right, now joining me to talk Cavs and NBA draft, John Fanta. How you doing, John?
Kevin, here we go, man. I mean, as we're recording basically 2 weeks out from the draft, and I can't wait for this draft night. Like, been covering the draft closely for a couple of years, and I think that this 2025 draft is the most pumped I've been for a draft night, just because of the amount of one-and-done freshmen, the amount of layers to this draft night. I'm really excited, man. I know you are too.
Well, what about from, you're also a college basketball guy.
Right.
All the players that went back to college because of NIL. Does that make you more excited because you see like a deeper pool of some of these like college names who otherwise would be totally undrafted guys that now teams are going to be taking 45 or 55? Does that have you more excited too?
Yeah, I think it does. I think when you have a guy like a Walter Clayton, who obviously helped his stock as much as anybody. I mean, it was remarkable what he was able to do in his college season, and even a guy like that sprung up the radar, like a Danny Wolf. I mean, look what Danny Wolf just became over the course of the last year, and how much he helped his stock to become a top 20, if not better, type of guy. But it's not just those guys. It's a Ryan Kalkbrenner, who had such an extraordinary college career, protecting the rim at will. And you just sit there and say 7'6" wingspan at 7 foot. Well, what kind of a place is there for him in the league? Kobe Brea as well, a guy who can just make shots in droves and has that type of shooting stroke. So there are a number of guys like that. And I will say, I think it certainly adds intrigue to the second round. Where will Janai Broom fall on the radar? Where will he go? And where will a John Tonje? So I think it's interesting to see a number of these guys that really made their mark. They had a hell of a college season, and we're in an era now in the NBA where role allocation has never been more important. You want 5 guys on the floor who can do different things at any given time for you, and it comes down to more than just scoring the ball, although you don't want to be a liability offensively. So in the here and now, I don't get concerned about, okay, he's 23 years old. I say, no. He's 23. I don't need to groom him. He's a guy I could take and put him as my 8th guy in my rotation, 9th guy in my rotation, and he'll help me win some basketball games right now.
That is definitely one of the things I think a lot of teams are thinking about. Who can come in and help us on a rookie scale contract right now? Before we talk draft, let's talk about the Cavaliers. Darius Garland underwent surgery this weekend for a great toe injury. Shams Charania reported that he's likely to miss the start of this coming season, but we also had some trade rumors involving Darius Garland as well. Brian Windhorst on 850 ESPN in Cleveland said a year ago, there was the talk about how Garland maybe would want to leave. Now the conversation has changed. Windhorst said there's some belief that Darius Garland might be available under the right circumstances. And I don't think Darius Garland wants to go anywhere. I think Darius Garland is very happy with how things have developed in Cleveland, and he really likes it. So from the Cleveland side of things, John, do you see any logic here and them exploring Darius Garland trades? And if so, what are you looking for? What's the improvement the Cavs need to actually be playing here in the NBA Finals a year from now?
will get a better fit with Donovan Mitchell? Because Darius Garland's talented. He's a good player, Kevin. And he's coming off of the best regular season, the most complete regular season of his career.
Mm-hmm.
And he's still relatively young. So I'm not coming on your show to sit here and start ripping Darius Garland apart. I think he's done some very good things in Cleveland. He is 25, but things have run their course. I don't know how much else you have to see of Mitchell and Garland in the playoffs. And you could sit here and say, yeah, but, 64 wins. I mean, look at the season they just had. How could you sit here and say that it's not working? Because the playoffs are a different monster. And yeah, he was hurt for a good portion of this postseason, the most critical portion, and it definitely caused the Cavaliers. I mean, I think with him fully healthy, maybe they take a second game against Indiana. They probably do. They probably take game 2. But we all know in this postseason, it's no what ifs. It's just the Pacers having their comebacks of destiny. Kevin, what do the Cavs need? First off, they need a whole hell of a lot more toughness. I mean, these teams that have knocked them out in the playoffs have taken their manhood. They have not been tough enough. They have not been resilient enough. They haven't punched back. It feels like Mitchell, you could tell watching the Cavs how badly Mitchell wants this to work. He genuinely loves Cleveland. He's getting that crowd pumped. He is into it. He's scoring in waves. He's trying to do everything he can. That's why when I look at it, it's like, is it fair? But it's reality. Guy hasn't made a conference finals. That's hanging on his shoulders until he proves somebody wrong. Now, the roster, I think it was constructed well in a lot of ways, and I like the move to get DeAndre Hunter, although he was inconsistent at the end of the day, a little bit underwhelming, I might add, in the playoffs. Way too inconsistent. Garland and Mitchell require the ball to have success. Doesn't work because you're always going to have Mitchell with the basketball. Garland needs to break you down, ISO, let me take you off the dribble. In the regular season, Kevin, when defense isn't as complete and as intense, that can work. It's not working right now between these two players in the postseason. It's not just right now. For me, it's period. Garland is as valuable as he's going to be. Everyone's like, you're going to blow up the core 4. Everyone in Cleveland's, right now in Cleveland, Kevin, there are two sides. It's ride it out a little longer. Look, it took Shai Gilgeous-Alexander a couple of years to figure it out. And Indiana ran it back, and then look what happened. Yeah, but Indiana made the conference finals last year. And OKC, yeah, that to me last year was just a maturation thing, and they figured some things out. And
they also added Isaiah Hartenstein and Alex Caruso, 2 major additions that filled exact holes that they had exploited last year in the postseason. And what you're hitting is, yes, it's the core 4, but there's holes that are exploited that we need to resolve, or it's never going to get better. That's what you're saying here, right? So you're on the side of trade. There's other people in Cleveland who don't want to trade. Our producer here, Mike Goldfarb, is a hardcore Cleveland Cavaliers fan, and he came up with a fake trade idea that I want to share with you, John, and get your feedback.
And does Mike want to trade him?
He wants to trade. So he came up with a 2-part trade, okay?
Okay.
Part 1 is a 3-way deal involving the Nets and the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves would end up with Darius Garland here. The Nets would end up with Jaden McDaniels and Rob Dillingham from Minnesota.
Interesting.
And the Cavs would get Nick Claxton from the Nets, Mike Conley from the T-Wolves, 2 first-round draft picks. Now, you get Nick Claxton. Why do you want Nick Claxton when you have Jared Allen and Evan Mobley? Well, that's because you're flipping Jared Allen to the Los Angeles Lakers for Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect.
Wow.
So in the end, Cleveland ends up with Austin Reeves, Dalton Connect, Nick Claxton, Mike Conley, and 2 first-round picks for Darius Garland. Wow. It feels like a lot to me for Garland, but at the same time, Garland is young. Maybe there's some value there for Minnesota. The Lakers could use a big. I think the idea, the structure of it makes a little sense here, but what do you think?
Look at Goldfarb putting on the GM cap. And Mike, if you do that, I'll buy you a steak dinner in Cleveland. I mean, if that gets pulled off by Kobe Altman, I don't know if he's listening or not, but man, I'll tell you what, that would be awfully impressive. What do I make of that? To me, that's overpaying for Darius Garland ultimately. It is. The Cavaliers would be winners in that deal because you just addressed some of the things that they need. Now, I think that we all know, like, Garland and Jared Allen are the two guys that you would flip. You're not flipping Evan Mobley. To me, Evan Mobley actually has been hurt by this Mitchell-Garland setup. Because, again, they both need the ball in their hand. Kevin, there are moments in games, I'm sure you would say the same. Maybe agree and disagree with me.
I do. I already know what you're going to say, and I agree.
there are moments in games where I'm watching Evan Mobley, and I'm like, whoa. Mm-hmm. Like, that's different. That's not normal for a guy his size in the NBA. That's unique.
And then he doesn't get the ball.
And then we go a quarter without him getting the ball.
Yes.
Or he gets the ball, but in awkward places on the floor. Right now, one of the best weapons, if I'm the Cavs, you know what I do? I say, Evan, here, top of the key. We're going to work on everything you could do from there. Because when he smoothly gets downhill to the rim, it's scary how good he can be. But also, the three is coming along. His jump shot has gotten better and better and better and still has room to grow because he'll go through stretches where he does not make those shots. But, man, you can feel it. And he's still at an age if everyone's like, wait, he's been in the league a couple years. Yeah, he's only 23. He's 23 years of age.
Still just a baby, really, from a developmental standpoint. Like, there's so many things for him to improve on every single year.
But Reeves, connect, I like it. It's more shooting. And you know, it felt like as much as Dean Wade, you know, and Max Strus, and I like Strus, but I do think that a Reeves, I love Austin Reeves. I really think that he is a player that in the right system is going to impact winning at a high level, and he gets it. He has great feel for the game, which is what the Cavs need. At the end of the day, he's a guy who averages 25 and 6 assists per game. He's a willing passer. He's a really good passer. Claxton, solid, and if you're going to flip Allen, you know, that fulfills that. And connect, upside, Mike Conley,
the Claxton part is where I have a couple issues with it. It's like, dude, do you still want to stick with too big? Claxton is lean, a lot like Jared Allen is. I feel like it could be some of the same issues there with him. And I'm also not sure that McDaniels is the answer either, because if we're talking about like toughness, McDaniels 2 postseasons in a row, he like wasn't big enough against Luka a year ago. He wasn't quite strong enough or tough enough in the conference finals this year against Oklahoma City. So it's like, well, McDaniels, as brilliant as he is as a defender, maybe there's some limitations in the postseason that cap off his value and in those environments based off what we've seen. Now, I still think he's a great player. I still think he's an all-defensive caliber player with some offensive talent too. But does he necessarily address what Cleveland needs? So I'm not so sure there. I mean, I think there's a number of teams that could use a point guard. Orlando, I would love to have talks for Darius Garland. If Cleveland wants to deal within the conference, that's a whole other question. Sacramento, they dealt Fox earlier this year. Maybe would they go for Garland? There's a number of teams. Houston's interesting as well if they wanted to upgrade from Fred VanVleet. But with Garland's salary number, he makes $39 million this coming season, $42 the year after that, $44 the year after that. That amount of money does make things more difficult with finding a partner. But if Cleveland can, I do think dealing Garland is objective number one. Jared Allen, I'm more indifferent about. I do think the 2 big versatility could be valuable, but you know, we have seen him, you know, have his issues in the postseason as well. Ultimately for Cleveland, some of their revisions might have to come around the edges. Like, What do you like if Dean Wade wants a different role somewhere? What happens with Ty Jerome? How do you fill the gaps with undrafted free agents? There's a lot of questions there. And so let's pivot into draft here, John. Kenny Atkinson, I've referenced this quote to Adam Mares on my podcast on Sunday, where after the Cavaliers got eliminated by the Pacers, he went up to the podium and talked about the physical challenge, how there's a mental component to that the Cavaliers didn't match against Indiana. He talked about playing with force and how Indiana can run up and down from start to finish in games. So that gets me thinking, who are the tone setters in the 2025 NBA draft class? Who are the guys that could play for Indiana, could play for Oklahoma City. These guys that you could throw out there as intensity, wall to wall in games. Who comes to mind first for you, John? Whether it's a first-round pick, second-round pick, undrafted guy, who were the tone setters in this 25 draft class?
Yeah, so here we go. So I went a little bit expansive on this and didn't say, okay, it's Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper. Because, okay, you're going to get that analysis from just about anywhere. Not on the Kevin O'Connor show, we go much deeper than that. KOC goes much deeper than that. So I'm not just going to give you like the easy top 5 pick answer. Like, do I like the intensity that VJ Edgecombe plays with? Of course I do. I think he's a fascinating prospect. Yes, the size is something to look at when breaking him down as a potential concern, but that guy has serious hops and does so many things right. But let's go deeper. I'm going to start right off the top and go with the Washington State Cougars guy who was going to play for Duke and instead is going to the NBA, and that is Cedric Coward. Cedric Coward, to me, first off, the journey. You're a Division III player to now a first-round pick and looking like perhaps a lottery pick. And that's an amazing development story. But he fits the 3-and-D mold. This guy's a knockdown shot maker who defends. I watched his tape on defense, Kevin. I didn't see him taking many plays off. And frankly, he was involved in some games this past year where he could have, to be honest, because not everybody's watching his games at Washington State. He doesn't do that. He plays with an intensity. He guards. He has feel for the game. He doesn't. I didn't think he forced the issue on tape. And he was on a team where he could have done so even more than if you pointed out an instance or two where he did. I thought Coward's feel was really on point. That's why I have vaulted him up to 10th or 11th or 12th in my latest mock drafts when I'm looking at him. I do have him as a lottery pick. But I do think one of the underrated pieces about Cedric that stands out to me when I'm looking at this kid is he's a good distributor of the basketball. So he would be number 1 for me.
That's
number
a good
2.
One. I want to say on Cedric, I'm right there with you with him because I think with Cedric, he has the defensive qualities you're talking about. He has length, he has versatility, a massive wingspan. Offensively, there's a foundation for him to, at a minimum, be a really good role player. I think with his mindset on the floor, the knockdown shot, the defensive versatility, at a minimum, that's what he's going to be. And then you add in the flashes of playmaking. At a minimum, he's going to be one of those guys who can attack a closeout and make the right play. And that's important for like the 3-and-D construct of this guy who stands in the corner is dead for the most part. For most teams, you don't just stand in the corner. You have to execute plays and occasionally drive a closeout and make the right play off the dribble and keep the ball flowing. Now, and that's where I think he can at the least do stuff like that. At the most, maybe he follows the trajectory of some of these guys with amazing growth stories. Jimmy Butler, Tyrese Halliburton, unranked in high school, and then they become stars in the NBA, where Cedric Coward, D3 to mid-major to Duke, decides not to go there because his stock is so high in the NBA draft.
Think about that.
Yeah, amazing. And that Duke situation next year for him, oh my God, it would have been glorious for him. That team on paper could be awesome next year, and he would have been the perfect fit next to those guys. So who's next up on your list, John?
Okay, so number 1, you got to be tough. You got to defend. And I like a guy who uses his physicality to go to the rim because I think in the NBA now, and we're seeing it with Indiana. Indiana, I think, embodies this with some of their guys. And, Siakam's so good at it. When Miles Turner is on, he's good at it. But this is a guy who I think could he just heads to the rim at will and can finish, and he gets stops, and that is Colin Murray Boyles out of South Carolina. Look, do I get a little bit concerned with what happens on the perimeter at times offensively? Okay, but this guy fits the mold of the NBA lockdown defensive player that has the ready frame at around 6'6". He's got a reported 6'10" wingspan. I think he's got good maturity.
7'1", measure it 7'1" at the combine, even longer. 7'1" even longer. Wingspan, yes.
Sorry about that. That 7'1" is that to me helps my case even more because I think he's got quickness. I think he can defend multiple positions. It's a guy who he was pulling down 10 boards per game in the SEC, which is not an easy place to do it. And oh, by the way, he's not a bad passer. Some of these guys, Kevin, that when I'm breaking them down, or when you're breaking them down, I'm sure you see it's like, okay, 3-and-D mold. What else? But Murray Boyle showed that when he was double-teamed, he passed out of it pretty well. He averaged 4.5 assists per game. He's not bad in pick and roll, and he's not bad in being able to find a shooter, which in the NBA, if you are in this role of you're going to be a physical type of wing who can drive it to the bucket and who can get stops. Yeah, but if every time you get the basketball, it's either shoot or awkward pass, it's not going to work. You have to be fluent in being able to distribute. Murray Boyles does that. I think that there's a mixed bag of results for him on draft night. I think my opinion, I think he could go as high as 10. I think he could go as low as, I don't know, 20, 21. Like, I think he's going to fall somewhere in between there.
He has a pretty wide range. Like, I think a lot of the draft people online, draft analysts, I've seen him ranked as high as 2 or 3 or 4.
Why do you think that?
Because of the defensive versatility. Like, he does have the tone-setting qualities you're talking about. Like, one of my favorite stats from, this draft class, according to CBB Analytics, they have great on-off data among tons of other stats. And South Carolina last year was 12.1 points per 100 possessions better on defense with Murray Boyles on the floor. They went from solid with Murray Boyles to just absolutely horrible without him off the floor. So the defense is way better with him because of his tenacious style. He's versatile. He has a high basketball IQ on defense as a playmaker with his rotations and his rebounding. And offensively, as you said, he's kind of he's a playmaking hub. Like, I have Julius Randle as one of the comparisons for him in my draft guide. Not the bad qualities of Julius Randle, but just the way he moves. Like he kind of moves like Julius Randle at his size, with his big frame, the way he handles the ball so fluidly, the way he drives. He's also a lefty. He just looks like Randle out there, and he's a better playmaker, more of a selfless player without tunnel vision. So I think he has the good qualities of Randle. So I think people look at him and they're like, this guy is 6'6", 6'7", long arms. He can get to the rim without a jumper. He has intense versatility on that end of the floor. So what happens if the shot becomes average? Well, you might have a star on your hands. That's why I think some people have him ranked as high as 2 or 3. But the reason why teams are, 8th on their boards or 20th on their boards is because of the jumper. It's the lack of the jumper. And so I do think he qualifies for our tone-setting discussion. Where teams might push back is he going to be on the floor to be a tone setter in pivotal situations unless he has a reliable jumper? That's where teams would push back. I'm a believer in him. I think you can survive without a jumper, but you can really only have one guy on the floor who doesn't have a jumper. And I do think if he doesn't develop it, fit will be more of a complication with him, because if Murray Boyles is on the floor and if he doesn't have a jumper that's reliable, you're a big man, you're 7-footer, your true 5 is going to have to be able to shoot. It's kind of like the Ben Simmons issue next to Joel Embiid. Remember that with Philadelphia? Simmons couldn't shoot, Embiid had to space.
It's a problem, right? That is. I can understand the pushback.
Yes.
For this tone-setting discussion, I think you're right. Like, that he can fit in that mold, but that's why this draft night's so good.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole I'm not trying to spring off here, but a Yegor Demon, where's he going to go?
Could go anywhere. Could go top 8. Could go in the 20s. Like, I think this is that type of year. Every executive I've talked to about this draft class is like, well, after the top 2, it's like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder with these guys. Like, Ace Bailey might go 3 to the Sixers, or maybe he slips to 6 or 7.
I think he slips.
I think there's a real chance of that as well, because some of the negatives with him and with some of the fit, the need of these teams, like Philly at 3 doesn't need a guy who's a developmental project. Charlotte at 4, do you want to insert him next to LaMelo Ball and Brennan Miller? I'm not so sure there. You might need more of your VJ Edgecombe type at that slot of the draft. So like, I think for Ace Bailey, maybe 5, maybe 6, but you do hear a lot. I reported earlier in the week that New Orleans, or actually I reported on this podcast in the prior segment with Chris Mannix, New Orleans has been trying to trade up for number 3. So they like Ace Bailey. We'll see where he ends up falling, but I don't know if you're going to have to trade up a 3 to get
That's
Ace
the irony.
Bailey. Yeah.
You know, this is where Charlotte, their organization, and I know I still have another candidate for your game, but this is why it's such a fascinating night, because Charlotte, let's face it, has made some mistakes, several of them organizationally over the years that have led to their organization being where they've been, which is in the pit of misery, frankly. If you give up too much just to go up to a pick where the Sixers are bluffing blatantly, because to me, I don't like the fit of Ace Bailey in Philadelphia at all. At all.
Because they need a tone setter as part of that, and not a developmental project. Ace Bailey very well might end up the 2nd or 3rd best player in this draft class, but I don't think Philly can afford to wait for that or gamble on that.
If it's an NFL style no lottery, Ace Bailey's going top 3. You know, it's a team that it's an upside swing, but he needs the ball in his hands. You're not getting the ball in your hands in Philadelphia. Look who's on that team. There's too many. He's not disciplined, and I really do like his skill set and his talent, but he made mistakes. He will make mistakes at times that you have to be willing to live through. Philadelphia is not in a place right now where they're going to take on a project, and they need someone who helps them today. So I don't like that fit at all, and that's why I think this draft starting at 3 is going to be super, super intriguing.
Give me your next your next tone setter, John. Like, give me like a 2nd round guy.
Yeah. So I had a number of this guy's games, and every time I watched him play, I'm like, man, he helps his team win. Man, he's not on a very good team, but he's helping them tonight. Geez, he's not just helping his team. He's the best player on the floor. Holy cow, he has 30, and he's the best defender on the floor. It's Micah Peavy.
Ooh.
Out of Georgetown.
Ooh.
Who was at TCU. Guys, I'm telling you right now, if this kid it doesn't work out in the NBA, I will eat my words on this podcast and come right back and say, yep, I was dead wrong. I'm not afraid to tell you when I'm wrong. Kevin, you know it. We swing a lot. We don't always swing correctly. But I'm telling you right now with Micah Peavy, that guy is as elite a defensive player at the college level. I'm not saying it necessarily goes to the pro game, but what I could tell you is I watched this kid probably 15 times this past year, start to finish. And getting to call games means, for me, like I actually get to sit, and not only do I get to sit and talk with the kids, I get to have their games and see everything with them from start to finish. This guy was never not first guy out for Georgetown to shoot, to do things before a game, to get ready for a game. He's 6'8" tall, 17 points per game. That was not his game a year ago. You know, Jamie Dixon's offense was not what Ed Cooley allowed him to do this past year, which Georgetown needed. They were not a good basketball team. So as a result, he was relied upon offensively. He shot the 40%. So you can't sit here and say, yeah, he's just a good defensive wing who fell into an okay spot in college, and so we saw more. No, shot the 40%, shot the ball 48%. Kevin, he averaged 37 minutes per game. Guy doesn't get tired. Doesn't take a possession off. I think he limits his opponent offensively and how he guards. He's got the length and versatility. I'm going to go with Micah Peavy, a 2nd rounder.
I like that one. And Peavy's interesting. He's going to be in my, on my top 60 when we do the final update, because I thought he had a good draft combine, measured well. There's a lot of good reasons to put Micah Peavy in there. With the jumper, it got better every single season with him. Higher volume, higher percentage, step by step by his 5th year with Georgetown. Like you said, 40% on 4.1 attempts per game. Still only shot 65.9% at the free throw line. But again, 5 years in college, got better every single year. If this is indeed real with him, like the defense is there with him. There's no doubts about what he could be as a knockdown shooter. If that's real, hey, like good, smart kid, good decision maker. This is a guy who has the qualities of a good role player in the NBA. And I think similarly about guys like Elijah Martin from Florida. Like obviously, Walter Clayton gets a lot of the focus there, but Elijah Martin, defensive versatility, not as big as PV at 6'8". He's only, I think, 6'2", but he plays bigger than his body. Elijah Martin, a serious tone setter for that Florida team. I don't think they're the same team without him, with the qualities he brings to the floor, with the speed and intensity and downhill attacking that Martin played with. Like, to me, like when I think about Indiana and I think about OKC, Elijah Martin is the type of guy I could just see him plop right onto the floor and can fit right in with this style of play, this physicality. Do you think Elijah Martin brings enough as a shooter, though, to be on the floor in those minutes, John?
You know what? I think he actually does. I mean, I saw Elijah a number of times get hot in games, and when he did, it changed everything for Florida. And look at the amount of experience that guy has had in big games. So I'm going to bet with you on Elijah Martin, and I would bet with somebody who is as well, because I think for me, like, he fits that bulldog mode. He fits this argument of the tone setter mold. You know, I know that it's not like he has great size, but I think he doesn't have good size at all.
6'2", 6'8" wingspan. Like, it's not the most, fantastic measurables. It's just,
no.
I think like you can't measure heart. I mean, It's just the truth. You can't measure that dude's heart. Like, the way he flies up for rebounds, man, like, just, he has something about him. And like, even if he's not a winning player in the NBA, he's gonna be a winning player overseas. Like, he's gonna win no matter where he's playing, is my point. And so I he's the type of guy, I have him ranked in my top 40, despite some of the size concerns, despite the iffiness about his jumper. Only made 36% of his threes in 5 college years, but I just think the dude's a baller, man. I think he's a winner, and I'd want to give him a shot in my organization to see if he can win with us. And if he doesn't, I'd be very happy to be wrong about Elijah Martin, because I know he'll find success overseas somewhere else. Like, the dude's just a winner, and I want to see if it can be for us, for my team.
I agree with that. Can I give you another name that I really like that I think is that I think on draft night could go at the end of the first round? Right now, I would mock him in the second round. It's Hunter Sallis.
Oh, I like it.
If he goes pick 26 and people are like, whoa, I don't think you and I will be like that, because I'm seeing the stock and I'm seeing the way that this draft night could go. And to me, Sallis is a guy that can score from multiple levels, really good body control for the player that he is. He was pretty efficient this past year. And if that jump shot, to me, if that jump shot is right and is consistent, that's the piece that he could end up on a playoff team, 10 months from now, in an off-the-bench role, but comes in and gives you 12 minutes, even 10 minutes as a rookie. You never know. And is serviceable and is solid and can provide organizational stability off the bench. I really do like Hunter Sallis.
Why can't he be like Aaron Wiggins is for OKC, where with Aaron Wiggins, we see him, he's, typically, role player type of stuff. And then in game 2, 6 for 11, 18 points, hitting jumpers off the dribble because he caught fire. Hunter Sallis was an elite mid-range shooter in college. If that translates to becoming a elite spot-up three-point shooter and a guy who can get into his jumper off the dribble from mid-range or from 3, you're talking about something really, really interesting as a potential steal. And like, there's the foundation you're talking about. He's a good defender. He's got a 6'10" wingspan. He's a good passer. He can keep the ball moving. He knows how to move without the ball in his hands. He's a really good cutter. Sallis is I didn't have Sallis on my initial list, but like, Sallis is actually, that's actually a perfect one. That's like an oversight on like the peek behind the curtains. I should have had Sallis on my list. He's a good one.
You know who I can't figure out on this draft night? Because I have really mixed opinions, and this is another guy who I think I almost know he will be a second round pick. It's hard for me to fully forecast how Tyrese Proctor projects in the NBA.
I know.
I don't know what to do.
I know. I had him as a first rounder at one point during the season. Then the tournament went so poorly for him in the end. Oh boy, I just was like, maybe
the shot was flat.
I know. It came to life during the season, and then it went back to what it was, which is why he ended up not being a one and done in the first place. So it's like I don't know what to do with Proctor. I think he has the upside to be a steal, but at the same time, there's a lot of guys that I think I lean toward over Proctor at this point, based on where the NBA is at this moment.
Like, give me Jameer Watkins and Chaz Lanier.
Yeah, goes
ahead of him.
I had both those guys on my list. Chaz Lanier, perfect off-ball player. You know, the way he moves without the ball, the speed, intensity in which he plays with, I think he can fit in a lot of different systems. And Jameer Watkins, like I know the jumper's iffy with him, but everything else, like the dude is just he's just a good player, just a straight up good basketball player.
He is, and that's what we have in this draft. That's again why I think it's super, because this tone setter debate, when you're talking about different guys who can just add their ingredient. Like now in the NBA, you need a nice mix of ingredients to your recipe. And it comes full circle in our argument because somebody said to me, do you think that Darius is the right number? Or, excuse me, somebody in Cleveland, 92.3 The Fan asked me, does Donovan Mitchell need a number 2? Yeah, any superstar does. Ask Shai Gilgeous-Alexander how life would be without Jalen Williams.
Or Chet Holmgren.
Or Chet Holmgren, of course.
You need that guy on defense. You need that guy on J-Dub and Chet on defense. But you definitely need J-Dub on offense.
But it comes down to more than that in terms of winning in the NBA now. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th guys. Aaron Wiggins helped win a finals game. Who else is going to help win a finals game in this series? As we're talking, it's evened up. And I've got the Thunder winning this series, but who knows? All these games, Indiana's proven us wrong time and again. But I just think it showed you in the postseason. You don't know who you want to have a guy on your roster that you're not counting on to have 20 points, but you could put in the game and he could have that type of night for you.
It's a perfect way to put it, John, because I think with a lot of these teams, we're seeing the importance of depth with the Pacers, with the Thunder, and depth is important for two different reasons. A, you want lineup flexibility. You want the ability to put out different configurations of guys, different combinations, and play different styles or the same way. Like you want versatility. And secondly, the speed in which teams play, the physicality in which teams play with. Sometimes you need to go to that 9th guy or that 10th guy deep into the postseason, where so oftentimes in the past it's been like, well, you got 6 guys or 7 guys you can trust, and that's it. Game slows down in the postseason. Well, no. Indiana's playing the same way in minute 47 and 48 that they are in minute 1 and minute 2. And OKC's defense is flying around and playing as physical with Caruso if he's out there, or Wiggins when he's out there, or Isaiah Joe when he's out there. All these guys are flying around and playing fast, start to finish in these games. You got to have guys and bodies you can trust to go out there.
You do. You really do. And this draft class has them. Certainly has them. Before I know that our time could be up shortly, but I wanted to share with you, because this to me is, I'm not blowing smoke, is the premier basketball pod, your draft coverage. I listen to your other guests and heavily enjoy it and always love joining you. I wanted to tell you 2 very quick Cooper Flagg tales. Okay. So number 1 is the Duke was at the Prudential Center for the East Regional, and that was my regional. So my wife was pregnant and would have a beautiful baby boy. It was a month old. Very, very happy.
Happy early Father's Day.
Thank you very much. Everybody's doing well. Mm-hmm. So I was going to stay local and not travel because we were getting close to it. So I head over and I'm like, I want to do a feature on Con Knipple. I want to do a feature on Cooper Flagg. Find out something about them. Talk to family. So I get Cooper's mom, Kelly, on the phone. And I said, tell me something about Cooper early on. And the feature is over on foxsports.com, so you can read it there. But tell me something that made you say, he's different, or this is going to be unique for me as a parent. She said, well, he and Ace are playing Nintendo Wii, 4 or 5 years old. And they're playing, some sort of a Nintendo Wii game. I think it's Wii Sports. And Cooper wins the first round of whatever it was. And Ace says, hey, Coop, congratulations, man. They're young kids, but Ace is being a great sport about it. Ace proceeds to win game 2. Controllers get thrown. Cooper basically does what a 4-year-old can do in terms of cursing somebody out without cursing, yelling at Ace, crying, full-on meltdown, temper tantrum. Kelly's like, all right, I got to sit this kid down. She's like, I sit him down, and quickly it's like, okay, 1, he apologized to his brother, but 2, wait a minute, is this how this is going to go? And Kelly's like, same kid now. In terms of he just does not want to lose, which is then what happened when I covered my first Peach Jam. I call the Peach Jam for NBA TV and the NBA app. The first time I ever get this assignment, I go down there, Kevin, I sit down, and LeBron is on the court, and he's coaching. Bryce is coaching Bryce because Bronny was just about to head to USC. My timings, but he was coaching Bryce. So he walks in, he's working out with Bryce. I think Dwayne Wade's there, and Westbrook's there with his team, and Chris Paul's around with Team CP3. So all these people start walking in. And again, I've never called the Peach Jam. The gym is now full. And in my head, Kevin, we're about a half hour away from our first game. In my head, I'm like, yeah, people want to see LeBron, and some people are enamored. And a couple of locals walk in. You could tell that they've been coming to Peach Jam for 30 years. And the 3 guys walk in. And one of the older guys, like a 4th guy comes up and he's like, wow, LeBron coached his team. This is so cool. LeBron is in North Augusta, South Carolina. And the 3 guys turn to him and go, LeBron's old news. We're here to watch Cooper Flagg. Shut up. Kevin, he proceeded to have 38, 18, 14, and 10. And I remember the game ending, and I'm just like, wow. I hadn't had a bunch of experience at that level of basketball. And when I watched that, I'm like, calling those games, I'm like, this kid is playing a different sport than the people his age.
Congratulations to the Dallas Mavericks for ending up with him. What a gift, huh? What a gift to have that fearless, just intense competitor that they're going to have in their franchise. They should build everything around him. They should. John.
They keyword should.
They should. They should. We'll see what they end up doing. John, appreciate you joining me today, man. Thank you.
You're the best, Kevin. Great to be with you.